The floodgates are now open. That's right. We are now getting reports from Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov. Now, he is the Eastern Ukraine. He's the Ukrainian Defense Minister, and he is a lawyer. So when he speaks, he means what he says. That's kind of what you got to do if you're going to be a lawyer. Now, he has been accused of some corruption along the way, but he's refused to step down because until he's asked to step down. But the floodgates are now open of weapons and weapon systems going to Ukraine from NATO. And wow, these floodgates are really pouring out. Germany has now authorized 80 Leopard 2 tanks. Those are the most modern tanks that they have. But they've also authorized, you don't hear about this, yeah, it was like 12, and then now it's like 80, because that's how it works. You know, the dam breaches just a little bit, and then everyone's like, oh, okay, we're allowed to give tanks now? Let's just give everything. And then, so 80 Leopard 2s, and then the older version Leopard 1s, they've now authorized 88 to go to Ukraine. That's just Germany. The U.S. has authorized the sending of 41 Abrams tanks. UK is sending 14 Challenger tanks, which is kind of on par with the M1 Abrams tanks and the Leopard 2s. Poland has authorized now, they were 14, and then they got excited, and now it's 74. So 14 modern tanks, and then they're sending 60 a little bit older tanks. I wasn't able to find out what models they're sending. And everybody else is like stumbling over each other to give as much free stuff as they can to Ukraine now. And when you start adding that up, I mean, they asked for 300 battle tanks. And of course, NATO's like, that's just ridiculous. That's insane. Like, that's just crazy talk. Let's talk about just a few tanks, okay? Well, let's see, 160, 200. Yep, we're getting right about 300 tanks now. Isn't that fantastic? So 300 tanks was World War III a month ago, and insane. But now 300 tanks is like, well, what else can we give them? And the thing that they want, of course, is fighter jets. Fighter jets and bombers and long-range missiles. And, you know, you just, once you've given those things, I don't know what else there's left. Maybe long-range bombers? I don't know. But the Defense Minister, Alexei Reznikov, said this: "Today, in terms of receiving weapons, we received everything. There are only planes left." He's talking about the negotiations, right? "I can add some optimism to you. There will be planes too. The question is which ones." Okay, now, they don't like to announce things until they've come up with an agreement of exactly what it is going to be. What he has said, he said mission accomplished, and now he's saying the question isn't whether they're going to give us jets or planes. The question is which ones. And they kind of followed up a question on him. Now, this is all translated, so I had to go through several different places to kind of make sure that translation is looking good. Now, you're not hearing this on Western media. They're all saying, well, he's hoping that they're going to get fighter jets. He's hoping that they're going to... No, that's not what he said. He said, we're getting them. It's basically agreed to in principle. It's just a matter of which ones. He said they are discussing F-16s and other aircraft. That's big news, folks. Remember how President Biden said that combat aircraft would be tantamount to World War III. Of course, he said that previously about sending tanks. That would be World War III, but then we're doing that, and now it's like, now we're moving forward on fighter jets potentially. Now, of course, no country wants to give F-16s to Ukraine unless the United States gives a thumbs up on it, or else they don't get any other F-16s, F-18s, or F-22s, or F-whatevers. F-35s. They don't get anything else if we don't approve it. Like, they're not allowed to just resell stuff or give it to random people, or else maybe, someone could tip me a F-16 or something like that. If you're wealthy and in Dubai or something like that, and you have a tank or whatever, you're not allowed to do that, right? You can't just give it to whoever you want. You have to get approval from the United States or whoever the manufacturer of those weapon systems are to give it to whoever. But everyone's stumbling over themselves to be like, okay, let's do this. Let's just keep doing this. Of course, Poland and France are kind of pushing forward. France hasn't made super big commitments just yet, but they seem to be wanting everyone else to do commitments. France has been pushing Germany. Germany's like, no, we shouldn't do that. That's probably a bad idea. And France and Poland are like, do it, come on, do it. Poland's like, we'll give tanks. France is like, you should give tanks. It's kind of like a certain political party there, right? They want everybody else to contribute. Some world governments, shadow governments, we want everyone else to contribute to saving the planet, but, we're going to fly around on our jets at the same time. So we got all this pressure coming in to push this forward, and now, somebody's letting the cat out of the bag that the negotiations are there. Apparently, they're still discussing. He said they were discussing before on the transfer of combat aircraft and long-range missiles. Now, that wasn't an actual quote. That was a summary from the article. But basically, that they were discussing this, and they were discussing the logistics of it. Now, obviously, they can't fly those fighter jets and stuff like that into the country. They're going to have to probably move them in on the ground or something, or because, flying them in is kind of a little sketchy. If they're flying in from another country, then kind of opens up that other country to being a combatant. So that's been discussed. It's how do they get them there? And there's logistics with that. And a lot of these tanks are not going to be getting there until summer. The U.S. M1 Abrams might get there in the fall. Of course, we can't just give them random M1 Abrams tanks that we have, because we have to have stripped armor ones that don't have the depleted uranium armor. Those are classified and can't give those. You can probably park them in a garage and not secure them, but you're not allowed to give them to people. So maybe someone needs to pay a visit to Hunter and kind of work something out so some classified things can exchange hands. But so far it looks like they're going to be the unarmored tanks, probably using steel alloys as opposed to using the depleted uranium. But they're talking about this winter offensive, this early spring offensive that's everyone's talking about it. And the question is when is it going to happen? And there's already mounting pressure happening right now on some of the fronts over in Ukraine. And Ukraine is very optimistic that they're going to be able to hold out until the tanks arrive, until these things happen. But the question is when that massive offensive happens, because Russia has been moving hundreds of thousands of troops to the front. It's not for the faint of heart. We're looking at the early stages of World War III, and it's hard to see it as anything other than that. Giving tanks, giving weapons and everything like that to Ukraine we're given a lot. But will it be enough? That remains to be seen. But wanted to get that word out to you. We're not hearing that in Western media. I had to dig that up from back sources and stuff like that to find out what he actually said. And that is, as this lawyer said, the defense minister for Ukraine, one, he knows what he's talking about, and two, as a lawyer, he is using his words carefully. We would expect, and that is what he has said. He said that negotiations are there and they are moving forward. It's just a matter of hashing out the details at this point. So I expect to hear an announcement in the next week or two, probably, once they get that kind of figured out. And then they also have to figure out how they're going to drop the news in such a way that, Russia doesn't freak out. that's a whole nother thing. All right, folks, if you found this video useful or helpful, you might want to check out this other video from me right here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you later. Steve Poplar out.